Engel says his concept of heritage America affirms the domination and preeminence of European-derived peoples, their institutions, and their way of life.
There it is. There it is. Like literally in black and white. So I, for one, am grateful that we can finally address Christian nationalism formally. Hi, this is Racist of the Week. This is where we explore the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And of course, if you have any nominees, you can drop them in the comments. You can email me at reese@reesewaters.com. Today's nominees, Andrew Isker and C. Engel. And I might just have to throw in the whole white nationalist movement. Let's go to Tennessee.
Tonight, News Channel 5 investigates special report reveals the Christian nationalists who want to turn a small Middle Tennessee community into their base of operations, hoping to attract others from around the country. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rory Johnston.
And I'm Hunter Hoagland. They are a group who says they want to go back to an America before the civil rights movement. Their desire is to deport legal immigrants even if they became U.S. citizens decades ago.
And they want to put women back to where they think they belong. Our chief investigative reporter, Phil Williams, has been investigating this effort for 3 months. And Phil, you found that longtime residents didn't even know this was happening.
Well, this I find particularly interesting because according to them, the main target of their ire are the immigrants, yet the time frame they use is before the civil rights movement. So I'm just supposed to ignore that, though. I'm just supposed to, yeah, don't, ain't nothing to see here. Ain't nothing. Now, we just mean an era of time. It's kind of like Byron Donald said, really, we just mean an era of time, but we just happen to call it the civil rights movement. Don't let the words that we use fool you.
The views of some of these people are not so different from the white supremacists we've seen marching down Nashville streets in the past year.
And Phil went in on them. Shout out to Phil Williams out in Tennessee. That was beautiful to see.
These are really pathetic human beings, and they just don't seem to recognize it. Frankly, I think that's how most of Nashville and Middle Tennessee views them as well.
Yeah, just so angry at the world.
And sad. Although they dress up their ideas with intellectual buzzwords and call it Christian. And they hope that about 90 minutes northeast of Nashville, tiny Jackson County will welcome their controversial ideas of what it means to be an American. For the Christian nationalists setting their sights on Jackson County, Tennessee, picturesque scenes like this represent what they call Heritage America. It's a notion reflected in the Norman Rockwell images they post on social media of hardworking white people, especially white men.
We're building a town. We're building a community there.
Leading the way are podcasters Andrew Isker, a right-wing pastor from Minnesota, and C. Engel, who recently moved to the area from Northern California.
Like all of our heroes were way more racist than we're allowed to be today.
Not we're way more racist than we are, but more racist than we're allowed to be. That is a beautiful distinction there. And not to be ignored, the people you call your heroes. God, just so we're clear, just so everybody is clear.
Together, the pair host what they bill as the #1 Christian nationalist podcast in the world.
God made men to rule, period. That's the world God made. If you don't like it, take it up with him.
And here in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, Isker and Engel hope to make a new home in a place where most everybody looks like them and thinks like them.
So the question is there room for like-minded Christians and patriots in Tennessee? yes, there's an imperative for like-minded Christians to gather and fight with us. Like, we need Christian nationalism in one state. Like, that's what we need.
After first announcing a project here along the Cumberland River in southern Kentucky near the small town of Burkesville, the developers behind the plan recently announced their move into Jackson County. Here along the line with Macon County, one of the developers has bought up 500 acres in these rolling Tennessee hills. It's not clear exactly what he intends to do with all this land. But just a few minutes down that same road, just across from the Jackson County High School, a separate business entity has purchased another 100 acres that they are apparently planning to develop. And they've announced that Gainesboro, the Jackson County seat, will be the focus of their efforts to resettle like-minded people from around the country.
From what I can tell, they're Christian nationalists, and I wouldn't hesitate to say white Christian nationalists.
And that is an important distinction, because this whole idea of Christian nationalism, because you first you gave me before the civil rights movement, and then you gave me putting women back in their place, and then you gave me all of our heroes are more racist than we're allowed to be, and then you gave me God set out men to rule. So this whole idea of Christian nationalism, you're kind of dancing around like you doing a cha-cha slide around the blatant racism and misogyny that is really inherent in your brand of Christian nationalism.
Slide to the right.
I don't know why you get away with calling it Christian nationalism when it is white male supremacy. Like, I don't like why are they allowed to just call it Christian? That's what it is. Right now, I want to use my maiden name. Yeah, I'm using my maiden name is Christian nationalism. My married name is white male supremacy and white patriarchy. That's my married name. I don't use that no more. Now I go my maiden name is Christian nationalism.
Pastor Kevin Riggs has been sounding the alarm about the rise of Christian nationalism in Middle Tennessee for years, including Gabrielle Hanson's unsuccessful campaign for mayor last year in affluent Franklin, Tennessee. You said it borders on Christian Sharia law.
A Christianized type of Sharia law where everybody, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, it doesn't matter if you're an atheist, it doesn't matter if you're a Buddhist, it doesn't matter what, you're going to be forced to live by this narrow interpretation of Christian principles.
Now, I would like to go ahead and point to the fact that her run for mayor was unsuccessful. Was unsuccessful. That's the first hint of leopards in the vicinity. Okay, yet somehow this is still where you choose to resettle.
Having Christian nations on American soil. Yep, that's ours too. We'll take it, right? That, like, restoring American identity, right? American, like, heritage American identity, that's good.
As Isker and Engel see it, the only people who have a legitimate right to a homeland here in the U.S. are those so-called heritage Americans, like the ones depicted in those Norman Rockwell images from the past.
I would imagine in most of those Norman Rockwell pictures, there aren't any depictions of people who look like me.
Now, it's at this point, I would like to bring in all of my black conservatives. Yeah, all of the black MAGAs that had so many excuses to make for this. Yeah, so where you at in the photos? I'm trying to figure out where you at in the photos. They talking about going before the civil rights movement, and our heroes are more racist than we're allowed to be. I mean, they're not giving you a lot to work with and making excuses. So I'm just trying to figure out where y'all are at with your shuffling, because this music is speeding up.
We showed Nashville pastor Chris Williamson some of Isker and Engel's own words, in which Engel says his concept of heritage America affirms the domination and preeminence of European-derived peoples, their institutions, and their way of life.
There it is. Right in black and white, like literally in black and white. So I, for one, am grateful that we can finally address Christian nationalism formally.
Although he adds that his term also includes the blacks of the Old South.
Not Southern blacks, the blacks of the Old South. Just how old you talking? Huh? Just exactly how old are we talking here? I know we going pre-civil rights movement. We talking about like Jim Crow, like what Byron Donalds was talking about, Jim Crow. Oh wait, you put a hint right there, Booker T. Washington. Oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay. That was a great time for us. Let me tell you that. That was a great time for us. Where my black conservatives? Why y'all quiet?
According to them, if you are a descendant of slaves, you get to stay.
So they're defining my legacy, my entire legacy, really on slavery. I get to stay, even though I was brought here against my will and treated horribly through chattel slavery for nearly 250 years, but that's my heritage.
Even then, Engel writes that his acceptance of black Americans is on the condition that they don't try to leverage their experience for the purposes of political guilt.
Now that is that's interesting. Leverage their experiences for the purposes of political guilt. Now why would there be any political guilt or guilt of any kind if not for your own inherent knowledge and awareness of the wrongness of your actions? Because you're talking about political guilt. You're talking about guilt, period. And guilt exists because of your knowledge of your own harms. So you're aware of the knowledge of your own harms, but you will tolerate the existence of the object of your disdain and your harm. You will tolerate their existence as long as they don't try and leverage their experiences for the purposes of political guilt, of highlighting my own awareness of how wrong all of this is. And I just also want to point to the fact that I had a video out recently where Jasmine Crockett outlined what she called the white fragility that is inherent in us actually using federal resources to pursue anti-white racism with regards to DEI. So that is something that we are willing to pursue full-throated. Yet at the same time, you have white Christian nationalists asserting that they will only tolerate you as long as you don't leverage your experiences for the purposes of political guilt. They can't not deny the reality of not only where we came from, but where they're trying to go back to, and how that coincides with our active attention being distracted by this idea of anti-white racism. We are cooked.
Because really, you want to keep me in that place of inferior status with you. I'm okay as long as I stay in line and accept how you define me. But these days of white men defining black people, they're not happening anymore.
I'm not going to debate the meaning of America with those that seek its destruction.
The two Christian nationalists denounced the efforts of civil rights leader Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement in general, with Engel saying you cannot have both MLK and Heritage America.
Now we finally agree on something. We finally, it took a while. We finally agree on something. You cannot have MLK and Heritage America. Absolutely not. And I don't know how the right wing is going to deal with that, because they are actively pushing Heritage America, but they love talking about MLK. Woo, they love talking about MLK.
Please keep Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s name out of your mouths.
The two Christian nationalists denounced the efforts of civil rights leader Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement in general, with Engel saying you cannot have both MLK and Heritage America, and Isker declaring we should turn civil rights back to the states. They celebrate images of whites-only diners in the 50s, with Engel proclaiming the 1960s ruined everything, and they mock historical incidents like the kidnapping and lynching of 14-year-old Emmett Till.
Where my black conservatives? Because I wasn't supposed to take this serious, right? I wasn't supposed to take none of this serious, and they really all they out here with all of it, and they out here with all of it. I mean, really, they told on y'all. I'll be honest, they told on y'all. Yeah, they did. I mean, this is something that I and people like-minded people been calling out for a long time, but yeah, y'all gonna be real quiet on this one. I love to hear what the Rob Smiths and the Candace Owens got to say.
Yet they dismiss any criticism as people taking them too seriously.
So too are Isker's objections to the Civil Rights Act, his dismissiveness of the Emmett Till murder, and the broader racial views. Yeah. Well, that's funny. That's funny because that whole controversy was like entirely a meme controversy.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, come on, man. Like,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. You get in trouble for having fun.
So what do you really mean? Huh? Because if that was the meme controversy, no, those are jokes. So what do you really mean? Because it's not like we just saw you in passing and you said the one thing. I mean, that fits with everything else that you said. So you can do all the fake laughing you want. I don't understand how the one thing is a joke when it fits with everything else that you said. Yeah, Trump be bringing up Hannibal Lecter as a joke. Yeah, he just be trolling y'all. He just be trolling y'all. Well, why does he keep doing it? Because nobody has ever laughed. Next question.
You have done nothing but disguised white supremacy in the guise of Christian nationalism. So call it what it is. It's white supremacy. It's nothing Christian about it.
Earlier this year, Engel, to mark the beginning of Black History Month, responded with his own celebration of Heritage History Month, holding up white supremacist thinker Sam Francis for praise. Among his writings, Francis suggested that if whites wanted to do so, they could dictate a solution to the racial problem tomorrow by imposing fertility controls on non-whites.
It's repulsive that people would think of me and people who look like me in such degrading ways.
And yet they claim to be Christian nationalists.
Keyword is claim.
Part of this is coming out of fear because we're moving closer and closer to that day where the white European Christian is the minority or the new minority when you add up all the other minorities. So they're losing power and they're trying to stop that as well.
One more time for those in the back.
Part of this is coming out of fear because we're moving closer and closer to that day where the white European Christian is the minority or the new minority when you add up all the other minorities. So they're losing power and they're trying to stop that as well.
In fact, their rhetoric...
They do hate us. They hate white Christian men, period. End of story.
Now, I love this race to the top of the persecution mountain, right? I love this because one thing that I will deal with is being called, somebody that embraces victimhood, right? Somebody that embraces this idea of oppression. We last saw that explode with Jasmine Crockett when she gave people the definition in the House Oversight Committee.
We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed.
So you will tell me that I embrace victimhood, yet at the same time say that people hate Christians and people hate white Christian men, while at the same time stating that you want to go back to a time before the civil rights movement where I'm only tolerated if I don't leverage my experience for the purposes of political guilt. I can't imagine why there would be any hate or animus whatsoever from a group that you're told to go back to a world 100 years ago where you could live like Booker T. Washington. I can't imagine why that would upset anybody.
Is reminiscent of this scene. Where neo-Nazis took to the streets of Nashville earlier this year.
If you strip it all down, they're saying the same thing. They're just saying it in a way that may be more acceptable to people. But at the end of the day, it's the same tired ideology of white supremacy.
Are they saying it in a way that's more acceptable to people? Because they're not dressing it up very well. I mean, this looks like me going to Saturday church. Okay, they are barely dressing up. Okay, I don't know if they're saying it in at all a better way. Perhaps people's willingness to dress up has changed. Their actual beliefs on these things. That, I think, is the bigger factor here.
As Isker and Engel see it, this endeavor isn't just about moving to a place where the people look and think like them. They also imagine creating a political force that has an impact on communities like Gainesboro, eventually extending their reach statewide.
If you have towns like ours that we're going to be building, right, where there are a lot of people that are very politically motivated and very well organized, right, you can have as much influence as one of the big cities in Tennessee.
Hello and welcome to Contra Modem. It is election night. It's the big night. Welcome, everyone.
And on election night, the pair hosted a nearly 9-hour podcast from Gainesboro.
Oh, there he is.
No, he's on.
He's on. He's live.
There I am. Hey.
Hello.
Bringing in some of the biggest names from the Christian nationalist community.
This is Charles's moment. Charles, welcome to the 2024 election.
With one suggesting that Donald Trump's strong showing.
I mean, if he does that, then, Red Caesar, mandate from heaven, rock and roll, let's go.
Might clear the way for the authoritarian Red Caesar they hope will rise.
I don't want to be a gloom and doom type person. My hope is still in Christ. But what I see on a practical level scares me if this kind of thing just keeps growing and takes root in our country.
As for what these Christian nationalists hope to plant here amid the beauty of rural Middle Tennessee, these pastors say what they see is not American, nor is it Christian.
So when I hear people talk about Jesus and their Jesus does not invite people to the table of grace, when their Jesus excludes people, they're not preaching the gospel of Jesus. That's something else. I don't recognize that. And I don't want that kind of Jesus leading our nation.
One more time. One more time.
When I hear people talk about Jesus and their Jesus does not invite people to the table of grace, when their Jesus excludes people, they're not preaching the gospel of Jesus. That's something else. I don't recognize that. And I don't want that kind of Jesus leading our nation.
And that's not all. Among their other controversial views, they say they, quote, hate democracy. They're rooting for a Protestant dictator, and they think God made men to rule over women, that men are supposed to teach their women what to think, that it was a mistake to let women vote. And among the worst influences on America today, in their words, are college-educated white women.
Yeah, women. Yeah, women, especially the white women. Especially the white women. Y'all wanna? Yeah, this what y'all? Who's all the Megyn Kellys and the Nikki Haley's of what? This it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because you willingly got up there and excused all of the things that was said pre-election in order to allow this to flourish and to take root in our government and in towns all over middle America when this is what it is. So how are we supposed to look at you? Now, I'm not a woman, but how are other women supposed to look at you? How are they supposed to look at you when you making excuses for people who think like this?
Wow. I know you tried to get the two of them to sit down with you, get their side on camera, but it appears they weren't interested.
No, not at all. Both of them responded with defiant statements, essentially saying that Donald Trump's election shows that the media doesn't matter anymore. CJ Engel says his views are motivated by his understanding of American history and what he calls his love of country.
Now, here is where I put side by side his talk of his love of country while openly stating that he hates democracy. And this idea of hating democracy is something that I think is going to have to be leaned into harder as we move forward. Because if there's one thing that we have seen at play, and definitely the last month, but I would say the last several months, is we believe in freedom. We believe in all manner of freedom, as long as your actions and thoughts and speech are ones that we can support. That really is as far as we believe in freedom, is our freedom to impose our will. That is the freedom that we believe in. And the outrageous contradiction of that kind of mindset with democracy and this idea of America is something not only should we not let slide, but we need to use actively every day, all the time. Congratulations, Andrew Isker and CJ Engel. You are our racist of the week, and you actually might be one of the first to take honor in being nominated for racist of the week. You can go ahead and put that on your trophy case alongside nothing else.